Observe the scale of a glowing nebula or the precise spacing of a star field. The universe operates with a level of order that points directly toward an intentional creator. This is general revelation. The natural world is a public testimony of divine power that our minds are equipped to receive. By studying this mechanical order, anyone can use logic to see God's invisible qualities in what He has made. Because this evidence is universal and plain to see, the ancient texts argue that humanity is left without an excuse. The proof is effectively a public record. This raises a question first recorded in the book of Job. A counselor named Zophar asks, "Can you search out the deep things of God?" Thomas Paine, a rationalist who looked for God through reason alone, answered Zophar with a firm yes. Paine argued that the sheer design of the cosmos provides an undeniable yes. To him, the existence and basic power of God were as obvious as the stars themselves. But this creates a mystery. If God's existence is a public fact written across the sky, why does His specific purpose for our lives often feel so unreachable? Zophar follows up with a second, more difficult challenge. Can you find out the exact limits of the Almighty? On this point, even Thomas Paine agreed the answer is no. There is a threshold where human reason simply cannot follow. Our cognitive abilities are finite. Trying to map the boundaries of an infinite creator is a task our intellect is physically unequipped to handle. If the proof of God is universal, yet the understanding of Him is blocked, the failure isn't in the evidence, it's in the receiver. This suggests the wall between us and God isn't a lack of intelligence, but a failure of the heart. Think of the human heart as a prism. The same beam of general revelation enters everyone, but is processed differently. In a corrupt mind, that light is shattered, leading to a darkness where obvious evidence is actively rejected. This process is driven by the rejection loop, a psychological trap. It begins with an addiction to forbidden behavior, which darkens the mind. This creates hostility towards God's laws, eventually making the truth impossible to perceive. When someone is fully committed to this mindset, no amount of cosmic evidence can break through. They have reached a state where they are literally blinded by their own choices. Clearly, knowing God is not about finding more facts. It is about escaping the internal patterns that prevent us from accepting the facts we already have. To find what is hidden, we have to change our perspective. We must stop looking up at the easy light of the stars and start digging into the difficult terrain of our own character. This is the realm of conditional knowledge. It is a specific understanding of God's intent that is reserved exclusively for those who meet a certain standard. As the key turns in this mechanism, it represents the requirement for this deeper insight, absolute obedience to God's law. Without that alignment, the internal gate remains closed. Nature forces us to see that a creator exists, but discovering His purpose requires us to willfully surrender our own desires. The book of Deuteronomy provides the specific formula for moving from a blinded mind to a seeking one. The first part of this equation is shown here in the yielded heart. It is the act of turning toward God's voice, often during times of personal distress or brokenness. The second part is the effort. We must pursue Him with the same relentless focus a miner uses to find a vein of gold. Only then does the equation yield clear vision and purpose. These are the two sides of the spiritual journey. Recognizing God's existence is like looking at the stars. It is public, unconditioned, and free to everyone. But truly knowing His heart is like mining for gold. It is hidden in the depths, waiting for those who are willing to seek Him in complete obedience. That search can begin for you today.